Woohoo! We're live. We're
Happy New
live
Year.
here. Happy New Year, Umbraco people, and everyone else who is watching us right now on our 57th. Whoa, 57th
So
UmbraCoffee.
long.
How was your entrance to the new year, Callum?
It was very good. We were just talking, and people that have seen on Twitter know I was in New York, and it was amazing. Lots of fireworks. It actually rained on New Year, but hey, had loads of good pizza. What more can you ask? What about you, Marcin?
I have a New York picture on my wall where I was attending my New Year's Eve. I was staying at home, but it was a pretty cool time. I chilled down after the Christmas madness, and yeah, I came back home after Christmas more exhausted than before that. So it was great to enter the new year with some new energy, and here we are. Here we are in the new year. Do you have a long list of resolutions or plans for this year?
Of course, and no intentions to keep any of them.
Yeah, I've created a special card on Trello, and I've summed up my previous year there as well. And to be honest, I made most of my resolutions from the past year, but this year I pushed the bar really high. So we'll see how it will go.
Awesome.
But yeah, we're here on UmbraCoffees. We'll keep UmbraCoffees, of course, set up same as it was done in the previous year. Our setup is still evolving. I have a microphone in front of me, and I'm still feeling really weird. And Callum, you've invested in the new camera as well, right?
Yeah, I think it's like a 4K Ultra HD. Hopefully, the sound's a lot better. Let's see.
Yeah, we will see. So yeah, let's then jump into the topics which were revealed during this week. And Callum, we wanted to introduce a new formula, new element of our.
Yeah. So I mean, it's early in the year. We didn't think there'd be that much news, and when I went through the list and compiled it, I discovered I was wrong. However, we thought this would be the perfect time to introduce a game we've been thinking about a little while, and it's cool. I've even made a card. Hold on. It's probably back to front, but I don't know if you.
No, it's correct. It's correct, and I must say it's a really pro work, and
it's UmbraGO or UmbraNO, and the idea is we'll have a little topic and we will quickly give our views or opinion on that topic. It will be something that's not necessarily divisive, but people would have an opinion on. So an example of that would be stacked content versus the grid, or it could be something else. And we want to just have a quick little debate about this. So the plan today, I think, is to go through some of the news, and then some of the topics that come up, we're going to have a quick discussion about.
And we were talking before going live that people probably can be connected with us mentally because they've done the job for us this week, right?
It's crazy. People must have read our minds. This is like perfect timing. We've been talking about it for a few weeks.
Yeah, we were scanning through the Twitter, and for example, Jasper shared the first poll question about usage of UmbraCo grid or stacked content or nested content. And as you can see, the votes are spreading across all of those options, and nested content every time won, which is pretty surprising for me, to be honest. Callum, what about you?
Yeah, I am really torn on this one because I think the grid I've fallen out of love with. I think it's been overused personally on projects I've worked on. It's been maybe overused or used in the wrong way, and in cases where stacked content is actually far superior, on the basis that most web layouts are probably slice based and full width, and therefore you just need to drag stuff in order. So that kind of makes a lot of sense. The argument I've seen it for is creating this more dynamic content, or I want to place something over here, or I want to change the layout of one little content area slightly, but I just don't feel the grid's that user-friendly to do it. So it kind of, for me, it kind of depends on the circumstance, on the exact requirements. If we're just building slices, then I think stack content makes much more sense.
So there is no simple UmbraGO or UmbraNO in this case, because it all depends, right? And in my opinion, there are some use cases where, for example, you have a different layout. So you have a left column, right column, middle column, or one column layout, and you are willing to enable editors to decide about this layout. That's the grid perfect scenario. But in most cases, which I saw during my development work, was that grid was used to place the modules or components which were fitting the whole size of the column. which is a perfect scenario for stacked content. And before stacked content, nested content was used in this way. Exactly. That's why probably Matt was started the work on stacked content. So it all depends, and people shared their opinions in the comments as well. And most of the people are waiting for the Grid 2.0,
Yes.
which probably will also evolve the whole game around creating and editing content in UmbraCo. And maybe that's also a good occasion to refer to some other CMSs, because we've seen a lot of discussions on Gutenberg's editors. There is probably one more new editor in WordPress, which I can't remember the name of it, but it was shared across the people that they were finding it a little bit difficult to use.
Yeah. So that's actually a really interesting point about Gutenberg, because that editor is far more focused towards editing rich text rather than building layouts. So I feel like we've actually got two categories here. We have a really, really nice rich text editor that lets you position and style your content exactly as you need. So I want to align this image right, and it's always going to be right. It's in its own little section, for example, versus I want to lay out a page. I think they're two very different things.
Yes.
So perhaps we can take some inspiration from CMSs like WordPress or some others. There's page builders and a ton of different CMSs. So maybe we need to explore some other options for Grid V2 and evaluate, actually, maybe is this one property editor? Maybe there's two that can come out of this, or three for different use cases.
Yeah, because having, I don't know, Grid editor with inline editing and still being able to control the whole columns and everything else inside of it is a pretty complex solution, which might not simplify life of the editors. Yeah, that's a good way of separation. But maybe as using the opportunity about talking about the Grid 2.0 and your work and Aldergar's work on the retreat this year, there were a lot of discussions and work done about strongly typing the Grid.
Yeah,
and that's yet another poll shared by Jasper as well.
He's on fire. This was a question of, how are we strongly typing stuff, or are we not? And this was something, again, that we discussed at the retreat, the fact that there's only two things in the CMS that are not strongly typed, being the grid and macros.
Yep.
Does it make any sense? Should they be strongly typed? The answer was resounding yes, because you've got packages like doctype grid editor that already do this. So Jesper's question was quite timely on, should we be strongly typing everything? Are people just happy with get property value? And I think, again, here, my answer is a bit of both, which seems to be the consensus of everyone else. For most cases, like view models, it makes tons of sense to have a nice strongly typed model. And you can get that however you want, manually building it up. Models Builder, Mapper or Ditto, or one of the other view model mappers, or you can just get them out via the get property value extensions on our published content. I don't think it really matters. I would personally say, to keep your view models clean, you use to keep your views clean, you'd use a view model, strongly type that. But elsewhere in the solution, maybe it doesn't make so much sense.
Yeah, but isn't it that way that sometimes we are just not able to use Models Builder, or we don't know how to use it? Because if it will be available all the time, it's definitely easier, because it's just hiding those calls to the proper methods and gives us another layer of abstraction over the simple calls to get property values, for example. And I think that's for me, it's and I've selected this option. It's a strongly typed rocks, because I'm trying to keep strongly typed object everywhere, and that gives us more control over the whole behavior of our values, which are displayed or processed somewhere else. And if we can do something ahead, that's always good, in my opinion, to process on the strongly typed objects. And also, just an interesting point from my talk from UK Festival is that for example, in safety critical systems, there is no possibility to use not strongly typed languages at all, and not strongly typed objects as well. So it also means that this control and power of being, I don't know, in position of knowing what's coming from which property is good. And Callum, we forgot about one thing about UmbraGOs and UmbraNOs. We also wanted to know your opinion. So if you are watching us, and we know that you are watching because we can see you here, feel free to share your opinions about those topics. So are you using grid mostly? Are you using nested content, stacked content, or maybe you are just using a really modular document types with various of properties? Share your approaches, and maybe we can be doing some kind of summaries at the next episodes where we will be gathering those opinions.
Yeah, chuck them in the comments, chuck them on the chat. We'll keep an eye on those Twitter polls as well for anyone raising their opinions, and let's see what we can do.
And of course, links to Twitter polls will be listed on our video description. And last poll, which probably we want to discuss this week. Yes, it's Lee's question about
packages.
Packages, yes, packages and approach.
What do we want? Yeah, so the idea behind this was UComponents, very, very successful package quite a while ago, primarily for V6, was to add a load of different pickers and the functionality of the back office. And it was this kind of does everything type solution. And a lot of the feedback in the comments was people use one or two of those pickers and maybe not everything. So for V7, Lee's opted for, we're going to have one package that does one thing well and several packages, basically. For me, if it's a question of big packages versus small packages, I'd say no, you have to go for the small ones. I think it makes much more sense having granular control over exactly what you want. And I think also that's the way that the software community generally are going. If you look at Microsoft's packages, everything's now a NuGet package, everything's small and isolated. I personally believe that's the way it should be.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I always were advocating the NuGet everything approach, and also in terms of our internal projects, when we are decoupling applications into smaller pieces, we also trying to keep each one of them separated as a NuGet package and distributing them across the projects using our myget feeds, for example. And that's the approach in which we should be probably going. And sometimes there are some parts of packages which can be reused on other packages, and it will give us a possibility of using them, not being tightly coupled to the whole package as a big monstrum. And I remember one situation when we were talking with Kevin Jump about this aubergine starter kit, and there was a migrations project inside of it, which were doing a really great work of helping developers to migrate content and performing upgrades of package. And Kevin took out this code and placed it as a separated package. And then right now we can use it, and we are not forced to use the whole starter kit. And this approach of modules and being able to select what we really want to use for specific application. Of course, it's harder from the architectural perspective, but still, if we are doing it the right way, it's a really big power for developers to be able to reuse it.
Yeah, I think so. And actually, this might be a slight segue / shameless plug for the 24 Days in UmbraCo article that I wrote. So I did an article on ensuring proper separation of the concerns in your application, making sure that components of the application can talk to each other, but not necessarily directly, so they're not dependent on each other. And yeah, it's a mindset shift. You have to have a look at some, have to think about things a little bit more before you implement it. But I think you end up with a much better, much more scalable, resilient and reliable application afterwards.
Yeah, but it also must be said that it's not for all types of applications, because there are some cases where people are reverting back from the modular approach to the monolith approach, which is not bad at all, but it just needs to be managed in the correct way.
Yeah, I think so.
And Callum, if you mentioned the 24 days, let's maybe jump onto this topic. So people who are watching us and who will be watching us on YouTube, let us know what you are using in terms of those 3 discussions, 3 polls, which we shared and discussed, because we are really curious. And Alan, for example, shared his comment as well, that it's probably the most important thing to learn how other people are doing it, because then we can do it better, even better than we thought.
Yeah.
24 days. The saga is over. The series is over.
Yeah.
Did you read all of them?
I've not read all of them yet. I think I've got one left to read, which is the final one in the series, and it was a surprise on the 25th.
Yep.
From Mr. Pear Plug, who has a fantastic post about kind of automating your pull requests through your code reviews through GitHub. and that was really cool. I think we actually covered all bar 4 of the articles.
Yes, yeah, that's what I remember. That we were chatting on I can't remember the exact date, but
21st was our last one, I think.
Yeah, 21st. So yeah, your article and deployment article from Alex and Søren, traditional Umbraco meetup Christmas padding from Elizabeth, and this bonus from Per. It was yet another amazing series, and once again, big high five Iraq for people who are giving a lot of energy to make it happen. And yeah, probably the whole process of gathering authors for the next year is starting now. So yeah, that's a great series.
Whilst talking about like a challenge, a 24-day challenge or advent calendar, this is incredible. Is it Ken Jacobson did 24 pull requests in December to a mix of V8, V7, and to our Umbraco, I believe, as well, which is a huge achievement. Massive high five you rock to Ken.
That's really impressive, and it's of course it's not always the big pull request required, right? But still, the dedication and I don't know, doing something every day is really hard, and we all know that. And doing something every Friday is hard, right? Yeah, but still, that's a big kudos for Ken, and yeah, just keep it up.
Definitely.
So which one we're taking next?
Maybe if we're talking about the CMS and contributions, maybe we can go back to a topic that I think kind of sparked up over the just after Christmas and then in the new year as well, which is Warren, who has been very busy pulling together a list of packages that everyone's using for V7 and that we actually really need for V8 and that people are really going to want to use, which I think is super, super valuable. So he's got this idea that his lunchtime hackathon, pull request, evening messing about is going to be trying to move some of these really popular V7 packages to work with V8. And that's really awesome. And in fact, he was so quick. I think literally 36 hours after he posted this list, he did a pull request, and he's got the he's Marcin, come on. He's got the
not safe at all, but
no, he's got the Azure file system provider, blob storage provider working on V8, which is really, really cool.
That's
great. Gives me a bit of feedback, but I mean, that for 36-hour turnaround, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, and I think that it will be great to see those steps made during the process. And I know that Warren wants to share it and help other developers to make it happen. And I remember that during one of the hackathons, we were listing the packages from the Jeffrey's list of the top most popular from the crawl side packages, and that's also a good reference. But most of those packages were listed on Warren's tweet and discussion on the thread. But yeah, that's still, if you have something to add to this topic, and there is a lot of also knowledge for everyone, because you are once again discovering what other people are using, and if you can see that some of the packages are listed multiple times, it means that they are really popular, they are really valuable, and there is for example, maybe a need of making them ready for V8 sooner than later.
But also, just because you see one there that you already use doesn't mean you shouldn't list your favorites. Go on there, list things, repeat things, because it will just reinforce the value. And maybe other people other than Warren can step up and we can all help out, because V8 is around the corner. I know HQ don't want to commit to any dates or anything, but I mean, we are it's pretty obvious that it's going to be coming very soon. They've already said it will be this year. So let's all get working, make V8 as successful as possible, get the packages and the community all ready. But actually, that's quite, again, a nice segue onto something I wanted to discuss, which was another UmbraGO, UmbraNO. Do we support V7 and V8 for our packages, or do we now just focus on one of them? Because there's some fundamental changes in the inner workings of V8 and in the APIs. So we're going to have to write different code for each version of the CMS. Do we find a way to make that work on both platforms? make one package work on both platforms? Do we write 2 versions of the same package and maintain 2 different code bases? Do we just say, screw it, we're only going to do V8, or I'm only going to support V7? I feel if we only support one, it might hinder the growth and support of the other version, because people are going to still be using V7 for a very long time. It's a really tricky question. I think maybe something we need to discuss, start a thread on Our, or get a conversation with HQ going about the best way to do this.
I don't know. I don't know if Pete Duncanson already didn't start this thread somewhere in the past, because I remember the discussion about it, and my opinion is that until the V8 will be really established, fully tested, and ready, it's, for me, there is no reason to focus fully on V8, because it's still an early adoption. Of course, most of the people who will be starting new projects will be using it, and there will be raising a need of having packages, but still, if it will be well built and easy to be extended, and the content flow will be same as it is on the current UmbraCo, it will work, right, in the most scenarios. And it's still a .NET. You can still extend it as you wish. But for now, the market share of V7 is probably too big to make it forgotten.
I agree. I don't think we can ignore V7. I think ensuring that V7 packages are still actively maintained, new features are added for the foreseeable future is quite important. But like you say, yeah, V8's kind of early adoption. I do think that the package ecosystem needs to be there in order for it to be adopted properly. So it's a chicken and egg scenario. Do we create these packages before V8 is ready, so that the foundations are there, or do we wait for it to become popular?
But that's also something what, for example, Microsoft done when they were releasing Windows Phone platform. They grabbed the application from the creators and they rewritten them by themselves. This is probably what Warren is currently trying to do. But definitely there is a lot of forces required to make it all happen. And it will be progressive work, but that's a good sign and a good approach taken, because who should care more than UmbraCo to make it look good for the people who will be starting from V8, because that's probably the biggest challenge and pain, because whoever who will be starting from V8, that's an awesome CMS, but it's without some of the packages, it's still not like V7, for example. And yeah, we will see how it will go. But I'm really curious. It's 36 hours to map the Azure file system provider. 3 weeks to map something else, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's really crazy. But maybe let's use it to switch to share, of course, your thoughts about it, and maybe let's switch to the topic of package creation, because there were some new releases this week.
Some people were busy over Christmas.
Yeah, possibly. Nathan shared the new version of Tabulate.
It's I love that Soterius here has claimed that he's the UmbraCo Santa, which is really nice.
Thank you, Nathan. It was a great present for the Christmas. And Handy updated the look package to another version.
Super busy with this. It looks like he's doing a release every week or so at the moment, and it's becoming incredibly powerful and feature rich.
That's great.
Complex searching.
And 2 packages which caught my attention. One of them is height properties, of course, used to height properties. And if I remember correctly, here is a short GIF how to use. Yeah, that's something what a lot of people were asking for at some point. But here it looks like a native component of UmbraCo, and the behavior is exact as it's supposed to be. We can control it by user groups, by specific permissions. And that's awesome. That's definitely something what will be very, very useful for all of the projects done in the third time. And second one is conditional displayers, and
very similar, just slight different implementation, right? So this is dynamically hiding elements in the DOM, I believe, based on a checkbox value. So you can say these aliases for these properties, hide these when this is checked or when this is not checked, which is an interesting approach.
Yeah, I've checked the implementation, and that's exactly how, for example, UmbraCo forms were doing things with conditional fields, and it's very powerful and useful. Of course, the implementation here is really tailored for the need of using it between two properties and not too many more of them. But still, it might have its use cases, as for example here, right? We often have a banners or something which when those properties shouldn't be used or possible to be added by editors, but they are still on the document, so it's not still somewhere in the middle between best practice and the desired behavior. But yeah, use case is really good, cool, and I think that it still will be a very valuable package for the community.
It's really interesting that these two things sprung up literally within a week of each other. Yeah. And it shows kind of a shared mindset. I'm not quite sure where it came from. I didn't see any public discussions about this. I know I've discussed the idea a few times with developers or with people in the community, and that they've said, oh, that would be kind of cool, but the implementation's never been done. I tried to look into building it, and validation got very complicated. So it's great to see someone has gone ahead and actually done it.
Yeah, and from another topics, of course, once again, Matt Brailsford and Outfield Digital did a great job with making T-commerce better, and we saw a new documentation based on the GitHub docs. And I chased Matt, and Matt, if you are watching us right now, it's once again a kindly reminder that I would be really glad to see how turns those documentations files into documentation like it, and maybe I will share my screen for a while.
It's a really nice looking site, isn't it?
Yeah, I saw this docs done, for example, for Matt's previous packages. If I remember correctly, it was for Fluidity, and still, yeah, that's a great documentation connected with GitHub with forum link to post issues, etc., change logs and everything else. Pretty clean, really useful, and still living on GitHub, which is also good for all the devs who are coming there not from, I don't know, website, or they're just scrolling through the source code of the project. And that's great to see, and I will be happy to learn how to do it.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely a blog in that. Be really interesting to see.
And Callum, New Year, UmbraCo is also busy in the new year, and was busy before turning into 2019, and we are all waiting for the next Friday, when Niels and Anders will be sharing some UmbraCo's resolutions.
Yeah, resolutions, and they've also promised big breaking news.
What can it be?
Who knows? But you have to sign up. So they've got a webinar next Friday. It's 3 p.m. European time, so 2 p.m. UK. I'm not going to bother translating that for anywhere else. You have to do it yourself. I saw on Twitter Nathan Wolf discovered it's midnight in Australia. So we'll be getting up in the middle of the night to watch it.
Yeah, so there is a link to register, and you will get the link to the Zoom channel via email. And we will probably see each other there. And I'm really curious what will be revealed and where UmbraCo is going in this year, because in the past year it grew so much. It turned a lot of there were a lot of interesting topics shared, and the openness and visibility of UmbraCo as a company definitely raised to the high levels. And those new people who joined the UmbraCo before end of the year, such as Bjark and Mike, who we mentioned, if I remember correctly,
multiple times. UK festival. He was over for that. He's the kind of UK and Ireland partner manager. He's one
I like those pictures, yeah. And yeah, but there's another great blog post about the person behind HQ, and a new hire revealed today. If it was today. So yeah, feel free to also get to know those new additions to UmbraCo team, and I'm more than sure that all of those forces will help UmbraCo become better in 2019.
Definitely.
That was a pretty long episode and a lot of topics covered.
I was
and
really worried
UmbraNO.
That was going to be nothing.
Yeah, we were almost 100% sure that no one will do anything in this break.
Yeah.
But yeah, you are amazing. You are amazing people, and just keep it up. And yeah, feel free to add anything for those topics and discussions which we've started today.
Yeah.
And let us know what you think about those UmbraGOs, UmbraNOs, because it might evolve into something bigger, right?
yeah, we have a few ideas. If people like it, then we'll see what we can do with that topic. And also, if you want to see them in the future, suggest more topics you want us to debate or to debate with some other people, because we'd love to do that.
Exactly. And as usual, thanks for being with us today. And do you want to add anything? Probably.
No, I don't think so. Just another Happy New Year to everyone, and I hope you all manage to get back to work properly. I know it's been difficult getting out of bed. I've seen on Twitter a few people going, "Do I wear my pajamas to work?"
Yeah, and you are still fighting with jet lag, so it's also not so easy to get back to the routine of normal work. So yeah, Happy New Year for everyone, and see you next Friday.
Bye.
Cheers.